To begin this morning, I invite you to remain seated as we sing together verse 1 of hymn number 95 from the gray hymnal. That's verse 1 only. There is more love. There is more love somewhere. There is more love everywhere. There is a fierce love that surrounds us and dwells within us. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said that God is love. For many of us, fierce love is God. In these times, though, when it can seem that the forces of anti-love have gained the control of the levers of power in so many places around the world, I know it can feel as if love is hard to access sometimes, hard to find. It can especially feel hard to find that fierce love for those with whom we disagree, who seem to be doing their damn level best to work against the very tenets of love and beloved community. Here's a little hint from someone with beloved family members with whom he often adamantly disagrees. It's entirely possible to love someone even during times when we may not be liking them very much at all. Anyway, given the challenges we face in our world right now, as well as the challenges, losses, and sorrows we all face just as a part of life, we need that fierce divine love because it is our wellspring of hope, of peace, of joy. It's what sustains us and keeps us working for a better world, even during times when peace and hope and joy can seem so far away. Perhaps it was prescient then that last year our denomination as a whole centered our faith in love, made that fierce divine love the very core of what it means for us to be Unitarian Universalist. As Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman said in our call to worship, our Unitarian Universalist churches can then become the wellsprings of our spirituality, the sustaining resources for our efforts to bring more of that fierce love into our world, to realize the dream of beloved community. My beloveds, that fierce love is there, and we can always find it. Last year, around this time, when Wayne, my spouse of 33 years, died, I wondered if I would ever know love again. As I moved through the grief, though, I discovered that his love for me and my love for him were still there, all around me. That my love for doing ministry, for this church, for this faith, for hiking in nature, for reading, for writing, for music, for theater, for arts, and so much more, for life, was still there somewhere, and I could find it again. Eventually, I even found romantic love again with someone incredibly loving and extraordinarily lovable. And the amazing thing is, within all of those loves, my love with Wayne lives on. There is more love somewhere. There is more love everywhere. We're going to keep on finding it. Now let's remain seated as we sing together verse number 2 of hymn number 95, There is More Hope. Prior to a losing bid to become Vice President of the United States, a certain ex-governor of Alaska and precursor to the current aspiring dictator in the Oval Office once asked about the Obama administration, "How's that hopey, changey stuff working out for you? How's that short-lived, dead-end political career working out for you? I can love her and not like her." One of the things that wannabe authoritarians do, and that we're seeing so vividly from our current administration, is they try to take our hope away, to make us feel that resistance is hopeless. And one of the ways that they do that is to try to make it seem that change against what they are doing is impossible. They do that because they know that as human beings, in order to have hope, we have to believe that change is possible. And yet, here is where they fail. From within the wellspring of fierce love for one another and for life itself, human history has seen us rise up in hope again and again to seek and create change, even when it seemed impossibly difficult, even up against totalitarianism, famine, oppression, disease, enslavement, and so many other forces that would subvert hope. We must always remember that change, renewal, rebirth are always possible. And even when we in our lifetime aren't able to bring about all of the change of which we dream, there is still hope to be found simply in the struggling for it, in our love for life, for freedom, for one another, and this beautiful world we have been given. The cliche, hope springs eternal, is true. And it bubbles forth from that wellspring of fierce love that is the center of our faith and that some of us call God. Now, the thing is, authoritarians also know that fear is like kryptonite for hope, so they try to keep us in fear. And sometimes when that's happening, we can unintentionally direct our attention away from the larger things that we really, really want to change, and instead direct it in ways that may not be so effective or appropriate, that could even cause unnecessary fighting with one another. We do that because the larger fight for the change we really want can seem so big, so scary. So, sometimes, much like the little tree in our story, we have to let go of our littler fears so that larger hope can grow. It can even happen in churches. On a recent Sunday here at this church, stickers suddenly appeared on some of our toilets expressing someone's thoughts on proper etiquette for flushing conservation. Now, water conservation is an issue and is a part of an even larger issue of the global climate crisis, of which we cannot lose sight. And there are so many big issues right now. Fighting a police state from being established in our country, protecting basic human rights, saving democracy. So, having around 500 church members post whatever concerns them wherever they might like in the church at any time, that could prove to be a bit of a distraction from pursuing our larger mission. So, one of the ways that we as a religious community can help keep hope alive is to channel our very legitimate fears toward the actual sources of those fears, to work together in the spirit of love to bring about the change that is still possible in our lives and in our world, even given our current, admittedly scary social and political environment. There is more hope somewhere. It is out of fierce divine love that hope springs eternal. Now let us sing together hymn number 95, verse 3. There is more peace. Ongoing war in Ukraine, what can now only be called ethnic cleansing and genocide in Gaza. So many more conflicts we don't hear about as much. Almost 100 countries involved in warfare and state-sanctioned violence across the world, according to the nonprofit Vision for Humanity. It can seem as if peace in our world is so far away that we may never find it somewhere. The stressors of daily life, economic uncertainty and turmoil, conflict and rancor across our society, racism, bigotry, injustice, oppression, still omnipresent and currently endorsed, supported, and institutionalized by far too many folks in the halls of our government at all levels. It can seem as if personal inner peace is so far away that we may never find it somewhere. And yet there are literally hundreds of organizations throughout the world dedicated to the firm belief that peace is still possible, working toward finding that peace. There are multitudes of movements alive and well within these United States, heaven-bent on justice, equality, restitution, and reconciliation. And we can be a part of those movements. We can immerse ourselves in the struggle for peace and justice in our world and thereby find peace in our own lives. And there is this synchronicity in the fact that to work for peace in our world, to sustain that work on an ongoing basis, we have to find peace within ourselves. As Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and so many others have noted, we will never end violence with more violence, whether physical, emotional, or verbal. And so, our work for peace in our world must begin from a place of calm and peace within. So how do we find that personal peace amidst all that chaos? Well, it turns out there is a multitude of research on this. Here are just a few of the ways for us to keep on until we find peace. To start, since we're here at a church, we'll begin with spiritual practices. Meditation, mindfulness, prayer, and poetry, writing, music, art, walking in nature, going to church. Any practice that gives you a sense of being a part of something larger than yourself, that sense of our vast interconnectedness. Practicing gratitude. That's another spiritual practice, yet one so powerful that it deserves to be listed on its own. And finally, we come back to that wellspring of fierce divine love. Remembering to actively express love for others and, importantly, to allow ourselves to receive their expressions of love openly gives us that sense of inner peace. When we make love a verb in our lives, not just something we feel, but something we do. Some interesting research found that if two people love one another and one is at peace but the other is experiencing stress, if the one at peace simply places their hand on the other person with consent and appropriately, if they do that, their own brain waves, their own heart rate and the like begin to sync with and to help regulate and calm the same physiology in their loved one, bringing their loved one greater internal peace. Now, though it feels like a Unitarian Universalist sacrilege to quote Huey Lewis and the News from the pulpit, that's the power of love. Now let us sing together verse 4 of hymn 95, There is More Joy. Experiencing joy is a part of how we find meaning and purpose in life. And there's this paradox that during the really challenging and really difficult times, that's when it can be the hardest for us to find joy. And yet, those are the times when we need the most joy. We need more joy to maintain our sense of meaning and purpose. The Museum of Jewish Heritage examined the writings of Viktor Frankl, as well as others who wrote about how they found joy and meaning even while enduring the concentration camps of the Holocaust. They identified the following sources of joy even in such harsh realities: engaging in acts of resistance, no matter how small; finding beauty wherever you may experience it, even if it is again in small ways, such as just the sight of something out of nature like a bird that flutters past your window; finding humor, even in the difficult, even in the absurd, or perhaps especially in the absurd; engaging in small acts of kindness and building friendships and community. Which brings us finally, once again, back to love, to relationships, fiercely holding on to love even for those whom we have lost or from whom we are separated. The sum of their experiences was that we already know what brings us joy, and we can summon it, we can find it, and we can engage in it within almost any environment. Well, I'd like to wrap all of this up by letting you hear from someone who can most certainly preach perseverance better than I can.
My husband asked for a divorce after 46 years of marriage. I thought I was done. I was completely broken. And I thought, there's nothing more to live for, because we had done so much together, had 6 kids and all this stuff. And then he asked for a divorce. And I felt like I was just in limbo.
How do you move forward?
Oh, I was totally broken. And I didn't want to be broken. About a year later, I was able to write my ex-husband a letter and say, thank you for giving me my freedom. Because all of a sudden, I was not Bill and Gladys like I had always been during our marriage. I was Dr. Gladys. So all of a sudden, I had a new identity, and I could use it. The hard times come, but they go too.
Why do we laugh so little when we get older?
We forget. As we start carrying the bag, it's better to let it go. But if you take it in and you say, oh, well, it doesn't matter, and you let it go, it's gone. You don't even remember it. I'm really content with where I am. I don't have much, here, but I've got the whole world.
We've got the whole world. We've got this whole still beautiful world that fierce love gives us. A fierce, divine love that surrounds us and dwells within us. There is more love. Now let's rise in body or spirit and sing that through one last time. Hymn number 95, verse 1.